Your books are really well known. What possessed you to write on this subject matter in the first place?
Well, I was a marriage counselor back 25 years ago, and at the time, what I was seeing is that the techniques that we were being taught, which was to sort of be gender neutral, wasn't really working. As I was helping men be expressive of their feelings, often women then felt more responsible, like they were the mother, and often they felt greater hesitation because they might upset him. The women were becoming too emotional. So I said, really, I think we men and women are different. And as I started understanding some of the differences that I observed and validating those differences, I had great success as a counselor. So it all started just recognizing, helping women understand men, the way men think and feel, which is often a puzzle for women, and helping men understand the way women are thinking and feeling, which is often a puzzle. And when you solve that puzzle, relationship tension sometimes goes way down.
So what kinds of things did you find then, the differences that help bring the two sides together?
Well, some really simple things were the most profound, and it's not like they're the answer to all problems, but one was you'd hear from women a lot, which is their biggest complaint was often that men don't listen. And it wasn't men's biggest complaint by far. And not that men would agree that women were great listeners either, but it just wasn't their complaint. So you have to look at why were women complaining about this so much when they would come and they're ready for a divorce or whatever. And it was the bottom line is that women, which gradually I began to explore and discover, and now I have a little science to back it up, or at least help explain it, which is that the hormones that are produced when you're talking and you feel heard actually produce lower stress in women. And they don't necessarily lower stress in men. They might feel good, but if a man's not solving a problem when he's talking, his stress levels will go up. But often women are talking and they don't want to solve anything. They just want to talk and share, and that actually made them feel much better. I actually did, when I was starting to learn these things, just by observation, I did a test. And I practiced for quite a while. I stopped trying to fix women's problems and solve their problems and give sort of a rational perspective on it, but instead would ask questions more like, well, tell me more about that. I want to understand that. Let's talk more about this and what happened then and how did it feel. And by asking more questions, my practice doubled. And I asked the women who were coming into my counseling practice till I had a waiting list, I said, why did you pick me as your therapist? And women were saying, my friends told me all about you, that you're a man who really cares. Now, the interesting thing is I always care. People, when they love their work, of course they care. But by asking more questions and giving less answers, it translated into a message that I really cared more. And that term, feeling cared for, feeling understood, is a major hormonal producer of a hormone called oxytocin. I didn't know that then, but now we have the understanding that when you talk about your feelings and somebody listens, oxytocin levels will increase. And for women particularly, oxytocin will lower stress. It literally lowers their cortisol levels. So I was teaching men how to listen to women without interrupting and trying to solve things. That would be one difference. Another big difference, if we just flip the tables, that help women understand their husbands, is that men don't often want to talk as a way of coping with stress, but sometimes they just want to disconnect from all their problems. They want to forget them. They don't want to talk about what happened today. I'd like to forget what happened. So women would complain and say, I asked him what happened. He said, how was his day? Good, fine, okay. But I know that something's bothering him. And, something could be bothering him. And the way a man often copes with that is by taking time to forget it and to relax, maybe by watching a football game or watching the news or working out or has a hobby, something where he doesn't have to feel responsible for anybody or anything. Then he can relax and let go. And women often saw this as a sign of, well, he doesn't love me. Why doesn't he want to talk to me? Why doesn't he want to talk about his day with me? He must not love me. He must not care about me. And that becomes another major source of stress. So I called that the cave. I said, quite often a man wants to come home, just go to his cave. And it's not about her at all. Don't take it personally. This is actually what he needs to cope with stress, just as sometimes she wants to talk about her day, and that's a way to connect for her to lower her stress.
Are there chemicals involved in both cases? You said the...
Oh, big time. As a matter of fact, we're going to talk about sex today. And, the major hormone for men when it comes to sex, but as well as sex, but well-being, energy, motivation, positive attitude, not depressed, all these sort of positive attributes of masculinity, the ability to delay gratification, all come from healthy testosterone levels. And, of course, libido is directly linked in there as well. And for women, sexual responsiveness, as well as their ability to experience well-being and keep stress levels low, is all directly related to this hormone oxytocin. Estrogen's also a key factor in there because without estrogen, oxytocin doesn't lower her stress. But they've isolated it. It's oxytocin that's the hormone that lowers stress for women. So what we find is, now I have almost a scientific explanation to help women understand that when their husbands come home and he's like ignoring her, he's watching a football game, it's not like he's personally ignoring her. He's just doing what he needs to recover from stress, as I mentioned before. And if you measure his testosterone levels, when a man is engaged in sort of any recreational activity while relaxing his muscles, meaning he's not having to solve serious problems, but his brain is engaged solving problems, but they're not serious ones. So it's playful, it's games, it's hobbies, it's football, it's soccer, it's, these kind of things. It's hockey, of course. And when his brain is busy with looking at that, but he's relaxed, this actually rebuilds his testosterone more efficiently than anything else. He has to work hard using up his testosterone, doing serious problem solving. Then he comes back and relaxes by non-serious problem solving, so to speak. And somebody might say, well, watching a game, how's that problem solving? Well, you're constantly giving, you're saying, no, don't do this, go over here. Oh, how are they going to do this now? But it's all for fun. So that's how men rebuild testosterone. For women, they don't have to rebuild so much testosterone because they don't need that much testosterone. Your average woman, the average male has 30 to 50 times more testosterone than your average woman. There are some high testosterone women, but they're the 1%. They're 1% of women. They're not the majority for sure. And those women won't relate to a lot of the Mars-Venus ideas that I talk about because they're going to relate more to the Mars because they just have more testosterone. So they run out of testosterone solving problems. They need to rebuild it. But what's important is for all women, they do have a hormonal cycle of estrogen, progesterone, oxytocin. These are all major factors. Regardless of what your genetic testosterone levels are, you still need oxytocin in order to cope effectively with stress. And one of the major producers of oxytocin is communication, is feeling seen and heard, talking about your experience of life, your feelings about life, while you're not trying to solve problems, just simply connecting. And that's called relationship-oriented conversation as opposed to goal-oriented problem-solving conversation. So, these things that are out there about women talk more than men, it's actually not true. In the workplace, on average, men talk a lot more than women. But once you're married and you're in a relationship after about a year, generally speaking, women talk a lot more than men do once you're in the relationship and you've got kids.
Is there something that a woman can do to help boost the testosterone in her spouse?
Yes, there's lots, okay? So the first is what I said, which was so critical. And I was doing a TV show on testosterone with a bunch of doctors the other day, and I said to them, they're wanting to give people testosterone injections and so forth, and I personally disagree with that. There's different camps. If you take a testosterone, you're actually taking a steroid. And if you're not addressing the problem, why aren't they making testosterone? And, I'll get into what inhibits the production of testosterone in a man. But first, let's look at how men rebuild testosterone. And while they're prescribing testosterone to men, I'm saying to these doctors, well, how do you make testosterone? What can I do to make testosterone? And they have no idea. They don't even have a clue. They're not taught that. They don't have that education, and very few people understand that. But you go into the weightlifter community, and these guys have it down to a science. Some of them use steroids, but the ones who don't, they have to be really on top of the situation. And what they know is the way you increase your testosterone levels is you challenge your muscles, and then you give them plenty of time for recovery. And the most powerful testosterone-producing exercise has to do with what's called intensity exercise, where you alternate intensity with relaxation. That in itself is a big testosterone releaser, which if you can empty out your testosterone and then experience recovery time of 2 days with not challenging your muscles hardly at all, you will rebuild your testosterone levels more powerfully than anything else. You'll rebuild your muscle mass more powerfully than anything else. You'll rebuild your mitochondria, which produces energy in your muscles more. So the key here is for our relationships to create permission and support and acceptance and having a positive attitude about a man's need for cave time. Your husband wants to go out with the guys. Hey, go out with the guys. You need to have time with your buddies. Anytime a guy is with other guys and there's no women around, testosterone levels go really, really high. Now, there is a problem with just of too high testosterone levels, just to point that out. We see this with the famous book, Lord of the Flies. You get boys without parental supervision, which is one dynamic, but also just boys without any female influence. Testosterone levels start to spike really, really high. And the danger that occurs when testosterone spikes really high is it converts into estrogen, and now you get testosterone suppression. So that's another aspect of it, which is just simply boosting your testosterone too high is not such a great thing either. It's having healthy levels of testosterone. And one is a man needs this cycle of action and rest. Now, let's say a guy goes to work and he really doesn't get paid well, or he doesn't feel he's being acknowledged or valued at work, and he doesn't really feel any good about himself as a result. How can you feel really excited about yourself and what you do when nobody seems to appreciate it or pay for it? So he works really hard, uses, up his muscles, exhausts himself, comes home and rests. He won't rebuild the testosterone. He'll actually begin to experience depression due to low testosterone. And we have to understand this, that for men, depression is always accompanied with high estrogen and low testosterone. High female hormone, low male hormone. So what a man has to do when he's working is feel successful. The message a man gets is that if he feels successful using up his testosterone, which happens when you're problem solving, then when you're relaxing in a context of you are a success, you did it, you won the race, you achieved, you accomplished, you climbed the mountain, you made the money, you walked the long distance, you got here, he's home and he's alive. That sense of you made it, that's the biggest testosterone producer there is for a man, because what that will do is, first of all, it will release testosterone and help empty him out. And then when he can sort of sit back in his easy chair and relax because he's done a good job, which women will often provide for a man if she feels he's done a good job, then he will rebuild his testosterone. Now, this doesn't mean men shouldn't participate in household activities, shouldn't get involved in the family. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying he needs his downtime, and it's like his big reward. It's almost like you get the image of a guy sitting back with his legs up, smoking his cigar, I'm on top of the world, That is a major testosterone rebuilder for a guy. It doesn't release his testosterone, but it rebuilds his testosterone so that now when he goes out, he has less stress in his life. So for men, the relationship between testosterone and cortisol, the stress hormone, is a very, very, the most powerful relationship of any two hormones for a man, not for a woman. Actually, high testosterone will tend to increase cortisol for women, but for men, normal testosterone or high compared to a woman is what I meant. It is a major stress reducer for men. So in a relationship, if a woman, for example, was to be satisfied with her husband and appreciate what he does for her, that creates higher testosterone. But let's say she's out working all day long and she's exhausted and she's tired. He's been working all day long and he's exhausted and he's tired. And they come home and he wants to rest and she's busy doing all this stuff. It's really hard for her to feel appreciation for him. He'll say, I'm tired, when she says, why aren't you helping out? And she'll say, well, why are you tired? I did everything you did today, too. What gives you permission to be sitting on that couch and relaxing? And so whether she says that or not, she's thinking at the different degrees this sense of disapproval of a man's need to rebuild testosterone. She doesn't see it that way. She sees it as laziness. But this idea that he's lazy, just thinking that about your partner will drop his testosterone and inhibit the rebuilding of testosterone in his body. So it's really, the whole concept is creating a relationship where a man feels successful in making her happy. So how do you do this, women? You give him downtime, and you also practice something that many women think they shouldn't have to do. But women who learn how to do it are much happier women. And these are women who learn how to ask for help. They basically, honey, when you're out of the cave, when you got some time, would you help me? I've got a little list over here. And you got a little list, and you hand him the list, and he goes and does those things, and then you make a big deal out of it. Oh, thanks, that's such a burden off my shoulders. And lots of women, they'll be going, they want to throw up when I say this. They go, well, I'm doing all these things. Why should I have to ask? And, of course, now you're going to have a man with low testosterone, low libido, and want to divorce him. And you do get divorced because you got a negative attitude. Or you get the woman who goes, but why should I have to ask? If he loves me, I shouldn't do it. And so she gets her feelings hurt by it, and she gets confused about it. But you see, if the reason men work so hard in the workplace is you have a very clear job description, what's required of you, and you get paid for it. The personal life, men have never been, quote, required to do all these things. Our fathers didn't do them. Our previous generations didn't do them. We didn't see our fathers doing it, nor did we see anybody getting rewarded for it. So men think, let me go do the rough stuff, the hard stuff, get rewarded for it, and come home and make her happy. But it doesn't do it as much as it used to. So men's testosterone levels, that's one of the reasons they're so low. Men's testosterone levels is a huge crisis. Just doing a hard job, working really hard, and coming home and having a woman be grateful you're still alive is one of the biggest testosterone producers in the world. Sometimes my wife sees what I do. She'll travel with me, and she sees how hard I work, or she'll see me when I'm writing a book. And she just takes a deep breath, and she says, oh, my God, I'm sure glad I don't have your job. And I just feel so empowered by that. She truly appreciates the hard work I do. And she has a job. She works, too. But she sees what I do, and she recognizes, I'm glad I don't have to do that. But women who are doing jobs that they don't like doing, my wife gets to do jobs she wants to do, she chooses to do. But if you have to do a job you don't like doing, that causes so much stress in a woman that she can't give that kind of acceptance and appreciation and love to a man. But what she can do is find balance. So that's why, to help him have more testosterone, she needs to take responsibility for her happiness and not make him a cause of her unhappiness. And that's learning about the other hormones called oxytocin. She has to do what I might call me time. Do things that make you happy and learn how to ask for support and ask him to do things to make you happy. And that's the ultimate solution for romance, which is say, hey, next weekend, these are 3 things I'd love to do. Would you pick one of those and take me? That's it. That's romance. You don't have to make the decision. You don't have to arrange it. You get to do what you want to do. Don't try to pick something he wants to do. That's not romantic. Romantic is when he's happy to do something because it makes you happy. And, these are big subjects. I know, trying to get through them really fast, it's easy to misinterpret some of these things, but they're workable solutions.
It's actually pretty straightforward. Then awareness is what's really important, awareness of your partner.
Well, awareness and understanding what allows you to interpret them correctly. For example, let's say, I'm just taking one of the points. There's so many points, but this is a major testosterone one, which is how to rebuild testosterone. Let's say a guy's wanting to rest and relax after working hard, and his wife is looking at him like, why is he sitting there? He should be helping. Why is he ignoring me? And as soon as she has that big Y, which is men have the Y chromosome and women don't, and that's what gives rise to these higher testosterone levels in men and the needs that come along with those higher testosterone levels. Women love to have a guy who got testosterone. He's willing to take action. He's the one who'll go outside when there's a leak in the roof and there's a storm or there's big winds that are happening or there's a dispute with the neighbors and there's lawyers or there's police action. The guy's going to go out there and take action if there's a dispute, if you got to return something, if you got to argue with some. Women say, push their husbands out there. That's the testosterone guy. He's got all, that's what testosterone helps him to do, is do the sort of rough stuff, the tough stuff, the difficult stuff, the sacrifice stuff, the not pleasant stuff, the good cop, bad cop stuff. This is you want a man for that, but then suddenly you get him home and you want him to be like a little girl or something. This is where we got to, realize men and women have differences, and not all men have to be that extreme that way, depending on what you're attracted to as a woman. But you have to realize with these guys, it's a whole new world today. Women have new needs. They don't know how to meet them. But feminizing men isn't the answer. What we want to do is learn how to ask for support, because when you can ask, then you're not complaining. The number one marriage killer, testosterone killer, is complaining, nagging. You'll hear this over and over. And women like, but he makes me nag. I said, nobody makes you nag. It's like learning how to communicate what you want in a way that works. This is a whole art. This is a new knowledge. And when we don't have that, men start to feel like nothing I do in my relationship makes my wife happy. And that just immediately, that belief on his side, in misinterpreting her, because he can make her happy. He just doesn't know the ways to do it. But if a man interprets a woman, I can't make her happy, his testosterone levels will start dropping. He won't be able to recover from the loss of testosterone at work. If a woman comes home and she misinterprets a man's behaviors, he doesn't love me, he doesn't care about me, I can't get the help I need, I'm all alone here. Just that interpretation, that misinterpretation of this guy will cause her to inhibit the oxytocin production in her body. Her stress levels will go up. Her brain is filled with 8 times more blood flow, which activates her memories, and she acutely remembers every disappointment in the marriage. The longer they've been married, the more things there are to remember. And so she's in a negative, sour mood. She takes him for granted. She doesn't appreciate him. And so his testosterone levels crash. Her oxytocin levels crash as he loses motivation, loses interest, loses romantic interest, loses desire. And so, you can point fingers or you can take responsibility either way you look at it. There's things I can do as a man to increase my testosterone, do nicer things for my wife, make her happier. She can do things to be happy herself, ask for support so he can help her to be happier. And now you've got a man who has a way to increase his testosterone. So that's a lot of ideas there, which is if we can correctly interpret our partner's behavior, half of the solution is there. And then based upon the correct interpretation, we can learn new strategies for providing better support for our partners.
What about aligning these levels when partners are getting ready for sex?
Okay, so we're moving to sex now because for men, a younger man, until his testosterone levels start dropping, it's usually not till 35 or 40 that a man's testosterone levels start significantly dropping. So he doesn't have that automatic, I want sex, I want sex, I want sex. So we have to look at age differences here. But for women to really enjoy sex, they need plenty of oxytocin. Oxytocin is produced in a variety of ways. And as mentioned, if she was to get a massage, a non-sexual massage increases her oxytocin levels, and being sexual releases her oxytocin and causes great pleasure and lowers her stress levels. But getting the massage is one thing that increases the oxytocin. And that's just one example. Anytime a woman feels she's in a personal situation where she can be herself, express herself, and there's no obligation to do something. She can just be. The biggest obstacle to oxytocin, which has been proven to be the hormone of arousal in women, is that women need plenty of oxytocin in order to experience arousal. And if women don't have plenty of oxytocin, they don't lubricate, they don't enjoy sex, and quite often they can't climax or they climax too soon. It can be one or the other. But the whole experience of increasing pleasure and getting into the experience of sex, it's much more challenging for women today than most men because for women, our lives are so much faster. We're in a rush. We're in a hurry. We're filled with lots of sacrifice. I have to do this. I have to do this. I have to call so-and-so. I still have to do this. I have to check my email. That whole sense of I have to releases testosterone, but it doesn't rebuild oxytocin. It inhibits the increasing of oxytocin. So women, in a sense, dry up of oxytocin. And the ability to enjoy sex, to look forward to sex, to be responsive sexually, it takes longer. So we have something called foreplay, which is you don't get right to the intense sex part, but you kiss, you hold, you stroke, you touch, and if you're not in a hurry, then that creates oxytocin for women. Non-goal-oriented affection is a big oxytocin producer. When women are more stressed as they are today, I go beyond foreplay, and I say start with a foot massage. And even better than that is, if you really know how to listen, it takes a while for men to learn how to listen without losing their testosterone. But because when women start getting emotional, men go, I don't know what to do. Whenever you feel like I don't know what to do, your testosterone levels drop, estrogen levels increase, your libido goes away. But the real secret is when a woman can share her feelings and feel heard, then her libido will dramatically go up. Second to that is a foot massage. Non-goal-oriented foot massage will definitely produce lots of oxytocin, and then you can start going up her legs and so forth, and the foreplay part starts. But we have to realize that women need, generally speaking, women need a lot more time to get into enjoying sex. And this is challenging for men because, a man has a lot of testosterone when he anticipates he can give pleasure to a woman. So if he sort of starts making moves and he senses she's not experiencing any pleasure, part of him feels like, gee, this isn't working. And if you feel like it's not working, boom, your testosterone levels go down again. So it's like really understanding that when she's not in the mood, she's not rejecting you. A nice thing to say is, honey, you want to have sex? And she says, I don't know. Say, well, hey, let's talk about it. Why not? Or you could say, and once she starts talking, well, I still have to get this done. I got to do this. I got to do this. Then you say, well, is there a part of you that wants to have sex? And she says, well, yeah, there's a part of me, and that's all a man needs to get his erection back. Okay, so somebody wants me there, and then you can sort of, hear everything else. So when I initiate sex, sometimes I say, you want to have sex? And if she says, well, I don't know, well, is there a part of you that wants to have sex? And she says, well, of course. I tell you, I love it when I hear that, of course, because when a woman is not in the mood, when a man's in the mood, he hears it as rejection. And, really all it takes is 3 rejections. And, once you're married in your relationship and, in the beginning there's no rejection. So it's busy, busy, busy and lots of sex. And then you hear a rejection, another rejection, another rejection. For many men at that point, it's just too hard to be rejected. So you just like, now, is she in the mood? Is she not in the mood? And we stop initiating sex because we're concerned that she's not in the mood and we don't want to be rejected. So as a sex counselor, I've had many times where the man's complaining, we never have any sex. She says, what are you talking about? I mean, we don't have sex, but you don't want sex either. And he says, I want sex every day. And she says, well, that's news to me. You never initiate sex. And he said, well, that's because you never want to have sex. I don't want to keep initiating if you're not in the mood. And so it's literally communication is a big, big issue when it comes to even planning to have sex. When lots of times couples think that, you're supposed to just do it spontaneously. Like you can have children and you can have a busy life and you can have a schedule and just spontaneously have sex. It doesn't happen that way. Particularly for women. Men could do it, particularly when they're younger. Let's jump in that closet and do it. But because for men, sex is a stress reducer. For women, they have to reduce their stress and then they can enjoy sex. So it's like they have to minimize the stress level. But for men, sex is a great stress reducer. You can just do it. But after a while, if you've been rejected many times, it's not as easy just to do it. This is a part of our body that we have no conscious control over, so it's very much vulnerable to conditioning. This is the beginning of psychology, was the discovery of conditioning. If you go into a dark room, your eyes will dilate automatically, right? Automatically. You have no control over it. And you come into a light room, your eyes will contract. And this is an automatic reaction. Well, if you go into a dark room, your eyes dilate, the pupils get bigger, and ring a bell, and repeat that 3 times. Then when you're in the light, if somebody rings a bell, your eyes will dilate as if you're in a dark room. This is conditioning. All it takes is 3 times. So the penis, the sexual organ for a man, is completely out of his control. It's like dilating the eyes. It's the same dilation process of your pupils getting bigger as getting an erection. And so it can be conditioned very, very powerfully by her responsiveness to it or her lack of interest in it. So that also has a huge impact on a man's testosterone levels, because if a man anticipates rejection from his partner when it comes to sex, that is the number 1 inhibitor of testosterone in a man's life. There's nothing more inhibiting than that. because the ultimate function of testosterone for men is libido. That's the ultimate. Now, there are other things other than just that, but that's a part of the process, is a psychological rejection when it comes to sex, the anticipation of rejection when it comes to sex. So I teach couples, you need to create a kind of an understanding when it comes to sex, that all kinds of sex are okay, and I kind of limit it to, this is the G-rated version, but it's you can have gourmet sex where you go out on a date and you do lots of foreplay and lots of I love you, lovey stuff, and Valentine's Day, anniversary day, that kind of date. That's gourmet, where you have all this romantic stuff during the day and then you have sex. But then there's healthy home-cooked sex, which is kind of the regular sex, where it takes about 30 minutes. So you got about 20 minutes of that 30 minutes is foreplay for the woman. And I do it in a way where it's a process. There's different ways of doing it. I wrote a whole book on that called Mars, Venus in the Bedroom. And then there's quickie sex. And quickie sex is usually for the guy. He's in the mood, she's not in the mood, and she says, okay, well, I don't want to reject you, let's have quickie sex. And so he never feels rejected. And she can say, oh, I'd like to have sex, I'm just real busy now, can we do it tomorrow? We can schedule it, or we can do a quickie sex now. And you can have code words for this as well if you're not comfortable talking about it. Many couples just aren't comfortable using those words. So, sometimes if a guy pulls out a bottle of wine, that means, hey, let's have sex tonight. And she can bring out a big glass of wine glass, which means let's have long sex, healthy home-cooked sex, which is at least 30 minutes. Or she brings out a shot glass, which is, I'm open to having sex, but let's have a quickie. So if you can't use the words, at least you can use symbols for it. It's another couple. She brings out the pistachio nuts when she's in the mood. So the guy grabs some pistachio nuts, She brings out a big bowl of pistachio if she wants it to be a bigger sexual experience.
What about in a situation, this is kind of a strange hypothetical situation I'm presenting, but what about, say, having sex while being distracted? In other words, say she's doing the dishes and he's giving it to her. Yeah, can something like that work, or is that a little too out there?
Well, that's a quickie. That would be
Okay.
I've never heard that before, by the way. but there, part of a sex life is making it fun, it's not as fun as, it's not just as superficial as jogging or going for a walk. There is something very much more intimate about sex, but at the same time, we can lighten up on it a lot. And part of sex therapy sometimes for couples is you ask your couples, go home and have the worst sex you could imagine. Just get it out of the way. And realize that everybody has that sometimes. It's not every time we have sex, it doesn't have to be the 4th of July. It doesn't have to be spectacular. You can have quickies. You can have hand jobs, blow jobs. You can have intercourse while she's washing the dishes. Why not? Although I've never thought of that one.
Well, that's just my mind. But
you're taking a point. It's a hypothetical, which is, what if she's watching a TV show and you want to have sex with her? Now, I've done that before, and that was not really exciting for me. Never did it again. But that is a woman's biggest fear, is that if she doesn't pretend to be in sex, all excited and aroused in sex, then the man's going to be disappointed. And men are disappointed quite often. They're always saying, did you come? Did you come? Did you come? And she says, no. And you feel this letdown, and then, again, when a woman doesn't have an orgasm, if a man doesn't know how to interpret that correctly, he can interpret it as rejection. And after a while, he loses interest in her because she doesn't have an orgasm. Now, it's my belief, in a much longer discussion where I explain the whole history of the physiology of sex, all the way from animals to humans, where actually a woman having a climax is a very, very important reaction to keep men's testosterone levels high. Is that the woman in the animal kingdom, for example, doesn't climax unless the sperm is the strongest sperm, and that's the alpha male sperm will actually trigger her to have a climax. And so when a woman has a climax, it actually says to the man's body, you're the alpha male, you're the one I pick, you're the one for me. Now, monogamy is part of that, but because he's the only one, so he's the number one guy, because there's no other guy. But there's the reality of the climax tells that to his body, and his body clearly knows it. Not only does she exert certain fluids to absorb the semen better, but she also contracts. When a woman has a real climax, the vulva, the vagina opens wide and then contracts tight so that the penis will actually pull out any of the other sperm from other animals that had put it in there, will suck it out, and only his will be received. So there's a lot amazing science about all this, but the bottom line is when a woman has a climax, it makes a man feel like $1 million. And if he has sex, you get a sexual release tension and so forth, but his interest in her, his ability to create more testosterone with her will decline if she is not orgasmic. And she doesn't have to be some superstar, orgasmic, mini-orgasmic woman. One's plenty, but she needs to occasionally have that orgasm. And for her to have it, he needs to realize that quickies are not going to do it for most women. 99 or 90% of women need more clitoris stimulation, a good 10 minutes as a basic baseline. Some women need 20 minutes of clitoris stimulation. And, you know, for a guy that wants to come, that could seem like 3 hours. So look at the clock when you're stimulating, and at least 10 minutes minimum for clitoral stimulation before you expect her to have an orgasm. One of my basic fail-safe techniques, you know, lots of different techniques, but one is make sure she has her climax first and then have intercourse. Because you just don't know how long it's going to take her this time. It just depends upon her stress level, and also it depends upon her period. Where she is in her hormonal cycle will determine whether she has an orgasm or not, how long it will take, how quick it will take. It all has to do with different times. At times of fertility, her body is quite capable of having an orgasm. The oxytocin levels will tend to rise much higher. The estrogen levels will increase, which increases the potency of the oxytocin. Serotonin levels will tend to dip a little bit, which creates a sense of, I can't do it myself, I need your help. All those things happen, those hormonal shifts happen at the time of fertility for a woman. And so at least, at a minimum, an orgasm once a month is necessary for a man to feel like an alpha male, which has good testosterone levels, or to me, once a week is a good amount, I think, because we're not animals, we're humans, and we have, a lot of differences from monkeys, and I'm talking about monkeys there with a lot of that research. But we definitely know that with adult human beings, women and men, that the climax in women is the most stress-reducing thing a woman can experience. And if a woman's stress level goes down in the presence of a man, it's the biggest testosterone releaser there is for a man, which says to him, I did that, I accomplished that, which means now he goes right to sleep, falls asleep, and rebuilds higher levels of testosterone. It's always the rest afterwards that rebuilds the testosterone, which is why men tend to disengage after sex. They need that time to rebuild. While they're having sex, they're going, I could do this forever. But when he comes, it's done. Women are like, hey, what happened? I thought we were going on and on. And now when he's done with his climax, he's out of it. For women, they're like, hey, as long as you're ready to go, I'm going with you, even if she's had a climax. And men don't realize this. If you give her a climax first, then actually when you climax, she has another climax, which is even bigger and better because you're inside of her, and she can have many in that sense.
What's the role of substances like Viagra in all of this?
Well, what Viagra is doing, and for some men it will give them a temporary lift in testosterone just because they feel like, now I can perform, I can do it. Just the thought that you can't do it is a major testosterone inhibitor. But Viagra does not biologically affect testosterone at all. It's all about plumbing. It just gets blood flow to stay in your... It controls the smooth muscles, which we don't have any conscious control over, and it allows the blood to stay in the penis to hold an erection longer. It's also dangerous. It can affect your vision. Some people have gone blind by repeated use. Some people have side effects, headaches, and whatever. I don't recommend it personally because of that, and my own personal experience was it took away about 20% of my vision just using it one time. But I need glasses, so I have eye issues anyway. But not everybody experiences such a dramatic shift. But I think for me, partially, I was just playing with it, experimenting. I didn't really need it at all because I had plenty of testosterone, so I think it had a much bigger effect on me because I can have an erection anytime my wife shows a little skin. I've been married 28 years, but it's the relationship skills that keep my testosterone levels up. But when I turned 50, I'm in my 60s now, but when I turned 50, there was a big dip in my testosterone, and so substances were very helpful, so I studied that. and testing all the different herbs and so forth that can help. I wouldn't depend on them permanently, but sometimes you build up enough estrogen in your body. Just having that extra estrogen in your body, or the belly fat that's making estrogen in your body, that will inhibit your body's ability to make testosterone, even if you are having great sex and a great relationship. Just the accumulated estrogen from the environment or your lifestyle or eating meat that has estrogen in it. The foods have so much estrogen. It's in the plastics. All this stuff increases what's called xenoestrogens that suppress testosterone in our body. So during that time, I took some Chinese herbs to kick the estrogen out of my body. There's 3 which are known to do this. It's called myomin. I talk all about it at my website, myomin and the herbs that you can take. Also, there's for boosting the testosterone, particularly if the reason you have testosterone low is because of extra estrogen, then there's a herb called Tongkat Ali from Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand, where there's more sex than any place in the world. It's actually the only place it grows where it's potent is Thailand because of the soil there. But it's like a potato that grows underground. Tongkat Ali is one of the names for it. Longjak is another name for it. But it will definitely, it's not testosterone in it, but it sends a message to the brain that even if you have high estrogen, it's okay to still make testosterone. So it gives a permission for your body to make the testosterone. Now, you have Tongkat Ali that if we are estrogen dominant because we have extra belly fat, will make you estrogen dominant, or you don't feel successful in your life, your testosterone will convert into estrogen. Whenever you don't feel successful, your testosterone converts into estrogen. You feel powerless. If you find yourself getting angry a lot or sad a lot or feeling fear a lot, your estrogen levels are increasing and your testosterone levels are dropping. So there's certain foods you can eat. The myomin helps to lower the estrogen levels, kick them out of your liver and your body. The Tongkat Ali helps bypass the message that says if you have high estrogen, don't make testosterone. Your body will actually start making testosterone. And so those are 2 things I recommend. But also, if you're zinc deficient, your body can't make the testosterone, even if it gets the messages. Zinc deficiency is rampant today because people eat so much soy. Soy products not only increase estrogen, which lowers testosterone in men, but also soy products have something called phytic acid. They have phytates in it. And these phytates are very well known scientifically, this is all well known, to inhibit the body's ability to absorb zinc. That's why, people will take, clams and oysters as a great aphrodisiac because they're so high in zinc. But if your body can't absorb the zinc, even that doesn't help. So there's certain zinc supplements that do help your body to absorb the zinc. If you bond zinc to uric acid, zinc orotate, that will cross the blood-brain barrier. Uric acid is very high in mother's milk. It's a substance in nature that helps the body to assimilate minerals. So when you bond zinc to uric acid as opposed to zinc citrate or something, you'll get better absorption. So the key is to get these things absorbed. Pumpkin seeds, when people have prostate swelling, as you're getting older and you're having to get up in the night and pee, if you have interrupted sleep, having to get up in the bathroom, that's a major testosterone reducer. That's because you need a full night's sleep without interruption to produce your optimal testosterone levels. Sleep and relaxation are big testosterone rebuilders. And if you're getting up 3 or 4 times in the night, that will dramatically lower your testosterone. Then low testosterone will also produce high estrogen. High estrogen will inhibit your body's ability to absorb zinc, and now you can't make the testosterone. I know that was a big, long pathway, but that's why I say I explain it all on my website in greater detail for people.
What people who are into S&M, what does it say about their testosterone levels?
Well, usually they're very healthy, unless it's extreme. Let's look at, there's some research that just came out, and that's why I say it's very healthy, is research came out that said that couples that practice moderate S&M actually have better relationships, and they have more regular sex. And the reason for that is not the S&M part. It's just to do S&M, you have to have a lot of communication. You have to have a lot of acceptance of being a little weird, not socially acceptable, so to speak. You know, you don't advertise to your mom you're getting spanked or whatever. So these kind of, just the fact that you have little secrets around sex actually increases the sexual hormones. Sex increases in privacy. So it's an intimate act. So if you're doing something that you haven't told anybody about, it's more secretive, that increases the dopamine, the testosterone, the serotonin, the oxytocin, all those things sort of increase when you have secrecy. And so that's one of the benefits of doing something a little, well, being private about it, one thing. Often when people have affairs, I'm not encouraging affairs at all, but just the fact that it's secret and illicit and you don't want to tell anybody, that it creates a huge amount of brain chemicals, but it's only temporary. That's the emphasis here. It's like taking a drug like cocaine. It only works in the beginning, and it works less and less and less. Heroin works in the beginning, but less and less and less. It doesn't have that same excitement. Same thing like coffee, a moderate stimulant is coffee. In the beginning, it's like fantastic, and then you need 2 shots, then 3 shots. For me, for example, I like coffee. I drink it occasionally, so that when I drink it, it has a big effect on me, and then I stop for a while. Otherwise, it loses its impact. That's when you use stimulants. So S&M is more like a stimulant, but if you become dependent on it, then your ability to experience passion in normal ways is diminished, and eventually it stops working for you. Then you have to get into the heavier stuff, the more extreme stuff, to eventually get to a place where the only time a woman can experience pleasure is in pain, because pain does produce oxytocin. It's a painkiller. So if you inflict pain on a woman, she will produce a huge amount of oxytocin. If you torture a woman or a man, his female side will produce huge amounts of oxytocin. This is called the Stockholm effect, which is, it seems bizarre, but it's proven. It's not some weird psychiatry thing. It's quite proven that if a woman is in danger, she will then produce huge amounts of oxytocin, but then it will deplete her, and then she'll be dependent on more and more danger. Just as men who are low in testosterone have to create danger in order to keep getting their testosterone levels to go high, to stay up. So in the beginning, you know, you jump off a little cliff. After a while, that's boring. You have to do something more dangerous, and then you're jumping out of airplanes, and then you're jumping off climbing mountains where you could die. You know, these are all big rushes, but after a while, you lose the rush. But the problem with it is this habituation. It's called habituation. It doesn't work anymore. It's also changing your brain so that normal experiences don't work for you at all. So it's like the little boy who's bored. He plays a video game. That's a stimulant. It stimulates higher than normal levels of dopamine, similar to white sugar. And so you suddenly go, oh, I want to play that. But then that will become boring, and you need more stimulation, more time on it. But the problem with that is that when you're dependent on stimulants, it downregulates brain receptor sites. So now you're dependent upon the normal activities that would normally give you stimulation don't give you stimulation. It downregulates your receptor sites. So ultimately, I think anything, when you come to sex, it's good to try this, try that, it's fun, but don't become dependent on it. Let it be a passing kind of like vacation, but then come back to the regular real thing. But with S&M, to do it, it does involve greater acceptance of unique sexual preferences. People express what they like, what they want. They're able to communicate about it. That's the real blessing of it, which is learning to communicate openly about sex and make it okay, all kinds of sex, and finding out what's right for you.
So really what you're saying about testosterone, low testosterone, is to approach it in a natural manner by communicating?
Well, if you can communicate about it. Now, one of the techniques is, this is difficult stuff. I mean, people will go into therapy about this stuff, and high percent of couples stop having sex once they're married. They don't even talk about it. They don't tell anybody about it. There's shame about it. There's rejection about it. There's hurt about it. This is tough stuff to overcome. I mean, this is a big phenomenon. This is why in our society we're obsessed with sex. It's everywhere. In the airports, all those magazines, all those naked women, and they're all women's magazines, not just the men's magazines where they cover them up. You know, what you see on Shape magazine, on People magazine, the bikinis, the outfits, that's what Playboy was when I was growing up. I mean, they're way more revealing. We are obsessed in our society because inside, once you start having regular sex with somebody, you lose interest because our hormones are so low, which is why Viagra, for example, sales are off the chart of those Cialis and Viagra. It's not just old 50, 60-year-old guys, 70-year-old guys. It's young guys doing it. Everybody says they can't get the plumbing working. The average 40-year-old man today has the testosterone levels of the average 70-year-old man just 30 years ago.
Oh, my goodness.
It's just a huge drop, and, of course, the major cause of that is the high estrogen in our environment, which is why we really have to deal with this nutritionally as well to help the liver kick those estrogens out and not take things with estrogen, like meats that have estrogen added to them. You always want to ask for hormone-free meats. But in the bedroom, you want to have good communication, and the easiest way to get there is find a book on sex and have the woman read it to the man while he's going to sleep. That's the thing. You see, men need to get the message that women are okay with sex. We've got this whole 2,000 years of, at least the last 200 or 300 years of tremendous sexual suppression, if not more, Victorian age kind of stuff. That's why lingerie is Victoria's secret. The secret is that women love sex. Women love sex. They just need the hormones for it to happen, and they need a society that says it's okay. But there is all this conditioning that we think we're kind of liberated, but actually we're not. The conditioning has such an effect on us, we just don't know how powerful it is. It's like the other day, I saw my dog chew up a grasshopper, and I was disgusted. Here's my little puppy, my little dog, eating a grasshopper. I thought, how disgusting. When I'll turn around and eat shrimp, which is grasshoppers of the sea, lobster, crab. It's just as gross, but our society says it's okay, so there's no gross response. So we have to realize that there's all kinds of sex that people do in different cultures. They're cultured, it's okay. In our culture, it's kind of like women are supposed to be saints in their lives, not wanting sex, as if saints are non-sexual, which isn't true either. And they should be a whore in the bedroom, as if there's a dichotomy. It's like it's such a pressure on women that if I'm sexual, I'm seen as a loose, I'm seen as a whore, I'm seen as not lovable, I'm unworthy. That's conditioning that affects women's ability to get turned on and feel aroused. I mean, these conditionings have big effects, and it has effect on men. I mean, we grew up as guys thinking we had to convince women to have sex with us, as opposed to, hey, they want it just as much as we do. So the thought that we have to convince them, and it's some kind of dirty act, puts us down. So just having a woman read out loud a sex manual allows a man to hear subconsciously his conditioning is broken that women like sex. Because if he gets the message women like sex, then his testosterone level comes up, which is why often men will go to a prostitute and be able to have sex and come home and not be able to have sex with their wives. Because clearly the prostitute wants to have sex, even though she's just acting. But he gets the message sex is okay. But he gets this message from this woman he loves, mother of his children, oh my gosh, and who's rejected him several times. Then sexuality gets suppressed in him. So for her to read out loud these sex manuals, it's sex education books. I wrote a great one, Mars, Venus in the Bedroom, but there's many. And it's just really fun books to read, and she can read it, and then she can kind of go, ooh, that might be nice. And he goes, ooh, you might like that. Or you're just really quiet, but just the fact that she's saying it and she's not going, disgusting, has a huge impact on a man's testosterone levels.
Yeah. By the way, you've just you're working on a book right now, aren't you? Working relationship in the workplace.
That's my book that's out now.
Oh, okay.
It's called Work With Me. It's out the 8 gender blind spots in the workplace between men and women, which is why often women don't feel appreciated, and men think, well, why would she not feel appreciated? Or often women feel that men feel they have to walk on eggshells around women, and women are going, why are you walking on eggshells around us? And then women are often leaving the workplace because they feel that they're not valued or included, and they don't have opportunity, and men are going, what are they talking about? They have plenty equal. So these are blind spots. When you say, what are you talking about, it means you're not seeing something. So I'm able to bring forth these things that we're not seeing in a way where men don't feel blamed or women don't feel blamed. That's the secret to it, because as soon as people feel blamed, they get defensive and they can't hear another point of view. And that's what we really need to do, is broaden our point of view, both in the bedroom, outside the bedroom, and in the workplace.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
Okay, John, I think we've actually run out of time here at our end, but thank you so much. Very, very interesting, very enlightening. I hadn't really thought about it that much, but I was always under the impression that testosterone and estrogen levels and things like that basically remain static, but that's obviously not the case.
Oh, not at all. If you look at these muscle magazines back in the day when I was learning about testosterone, you'll always see libido products being advertised. Well, until I got to 50, I didn't even think about a libido product. Are you kidding? Any opportunity, I'm ready to go. But I'm not a big muscular guy. And then I finally put it together, is that the testosterone is used up making those big muscles. And it all became clear to me when I was, coaching one of these guys who was like a super athlete, and he couldn't keep it up with his girlfriend. And I said, go test your testosterone levels in the morning when they're supposed to be highest, and they were 0. A guy with that much muscle mass has 0 testosterone. Well, why does he have 0 testosterone? Because he used it up building those muscles. So, same thing with problem solving. You use it up, but using it up is okay as long as you have the recovery time. He wasn't giving himself recovery time. He was just like exercising all the time.
Right, yeah, you need that. You need that for sure. I've experienced it firsthand. Well, thank you so much, sir.
Oh, it's a real pleasure, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm sure we'll chat again.